I found myself yet again at the Rusty Anchor, perched upon a bar stool, sipping my worries away. When the door swung open, it was Bob. I thought to myself, how in the hell was it Bob? Bob was that rare individual one might never come across in a lifetime, yet I had managed to do so twice. He was a prototype of God's own high-powered mutants, too weird to live and too rare to die. A collector of stories and a participant, surely. All too willing to buy the ticket and take the ride, destination be damned.
Dorothy, Bloody Mary, my dear lady, and keep 'em coming!
Bob's eyes then locked onto mine. He gave me the look one would give to a lost Australian cattle dog that had wandered onto the highway.
Frank, you beautiful man!
He triumphantly erupted, taking the stool next to me.
How long has it been, my friend?
I slowly took a sip of my margarita, finally muttering, a month shy of a year, I gather.
Good, Frank, good.
So, any more Key West stories to tell? I asked, instantly regretting the words. Bob gently took a sip of his Bloody Mary, wiping the tomato juice off his top lip with a savage elegance.
Well, Frank, I perhaps do, but with the same three gentlemen in a different context and locale.
I looked on with newfound interest.
You see, good Frank, every story needs... What do the kids say? Ah, yes. An origin story. And for Mark, Chris, and Alex, well, theirs is vast. But if I had to choose, I'd be happy to give light to a rather peculiar one.
I gestured for him to proceed.
Now, if memory serves me correctly, the year of this tawdry tall tale places us smack dab in the early 2000s, a time where low-rise jeans, trucker hats, and that sassy gentleman Von Dutch were all the rage. Chris and Alex, loyal friends that they are, took it upon themselves to visit Mark while he was attending college. They held firm to a mantra. In a closed society where everybody's guilty, the only crime is getting caught.
I watched as Bob picked up steam.
After a short greeting, the three of them set up in Mark's modest dorm room. Thus began a ritualistic itemization of all provisions of fun they had gathered for the night.
Provisions of fun? I asked.
Yes, Frank. Provisions, yes, fun.
Not wanting to question it further, I nodded.
2 cases of low-end light beer, a relatively large amount of Captain Morgan's jaunty dark rum, a quart of tequila, a quart of vodka with some bizarre eagle logo on it, a 12-pack of Blue Light.
Blue Light?
It's a northerner thing, Frank. Just go with it. Also, a pint of raw ether and 2 dozen amyls.
Dumbfounded, I looked up at him.
My mistake, Frank. I just wanted to see if I had your attention. Now you may wonder why all that was needed for 3 men, and I'll tell you. Mark, Chris, and Alex took meeting up very seriously. Chris, for instance, was known to go to great lengths, professionally printing and binding numerous proposals of intent.
Proposals of intent? I questioned.
Yes, Frank. If you don't mind, I'd be willing to expand upon this rather intricate work.
Bob reached into his back pocket and produced a folded, crinkled packet.
Take, for instance, the Las Vegas trip the 3 of them took on holiday. Just a casual trip, one might say, but oh no, far from it. You see, Chris took any outing as a personal challenge. He wouldn't send an email. Too corporate. He would not send a text. Too teenage fanboy. Rather, he would send a dossier.
A dossier?
Precisely, I'm holding here as we speak. An actual copy I obtained in a rather bizarre sequence of events, entitled Operation Neon Icarus.
Although listening intently, I felt perplexed by the reference.
Here, Chris, the crafty captain of the trio, devised this dossier complete with a table of contents and a risk matrix.
Isn't that a bit much, Bob?
On the contrary, my dear Frank, time is a commodity, and fun is paramount. Christopher, in all his taskmaster brilliance, turned what would be a 3-day bender into a masterpiece of efficiency and audacity. He assigned roles, often appointing himself staycation commander.
Bob gently folded away the dossier.
Well, dear sir, I think you get the intent. Now, where were we? Ah, yes, Mark's dormitory. Now, after a lengthy discussion of the ins and outs of Tecmo Bowl.
Tecmo Bowl?
Yes, Frank Tecmo Bowl, or as the basement children of the 1980s call it, the art of zigzagging to glory. Imagine a time before 4K graphics, before realistic physics, and before John Madden's eyebrows took over the world. The year was 1989. You have a rectangular controller with 2 red buttons, a glass of Kool-Aid, and the greatest sports simulation ever created. This was a time when children could use the real players of the NFL. Before this, you just played as quarterback number 7 or fast guy. Now you could be Dan Marino! You could be Jerry Rice! You could control Lawrence Taylor, who, in this game, was essentially a heat-seeking missile made of pure anger that could block field goals by jumping 30 feet into the air. It was magnificent. Modern football games have thousands of plays, but Tecmo Bowl, well, Frank, it gave you 4?
4?
4 run left. Run right, pass it deep and pray. Pass it short and pray harder. It was a game of rock, paper, scissors, where the loser got tackled by a pixelated linebacker moving at the speed of light.
He leaned in closer.
I digress. But Mark, Chris, and Alex weren't debating the macro. Their debate lay squarely on the Bo Jackson problem. It was the elephant in the room, that bloody Bo Jackson. Still with me, Frank?
I gave a cautious nod.
You see, Frank, in Tecmo Bowl, Bo Jackson was not a man. He was a glitch in the Matrix. A cheat code that breathed. If you picked the Raiders, you weren't playing football. You were playing catch me if you can. You could hand the ball to Bo, run all the way to your own 1-yard line, circle the entire defense for 3 minutes, stop to tie your shoe, and still score a 99-yard touchdown. Picking the Raiders was widely considered a violation of the Geneva Convention in most households, but Mark did not abide by such treaties. Hence Chris's feverish hate of Mark's gamesmanship.
It sounds unfair.
It was simple yet perplexing. Newton's laws did not apply. The fastest way between 2 points was not a straight line. It was a frantic diagonal zigzag that somehow made you run. Quarterbacks could throw the ball 105 yards in the air. It didn't matter if you were 1st and 10 or 4th and 98, you were throwing a bomb. Tecmo Bowl wasn't just a game, Frank. It was a test of friendship.
Bob sighed, the nostalgia heavy in the air.
This debate, which alienated Alex something fierce due to his lack of interest in football statistics, continued long into the night. But in that time, much if not all of the liquid provisions had vanished. Thus began what would be known to many as the Boys of Summer Rampage of 2001. Let me elaborate, my friend. The clock struck midnight, and, much like a disgruntled fat child with an unyielding self-serve ice cream dispenser, Mark, Chris, and Alex were antsy. They looked to make their mark at the local bars scattered around campus. Much is unknown of what transpired at the watering holes that night, but what we do know, with ultimate certainty, is what transpired afterward.
Bob lowered his voice, dropping an octave.
While walking back to campus after the bar hop, it was Chris who flipped first. It was explained to me that a manic fever came upon him, much like a bull moose reacting to snapping twigs. Chris, with the violence of a rogue wave, directed his tirade upon the first house in his path, and with the speed of the much-debated Bo Jackson of old, he booted the front door of the stranger's home, hulking into the dwelling. Alex and Mark, who first looked to be unnerved by the act, turned to each other and belted out a war cry so savage it rivaled the Comanche warriors themselves. They subsequently bolted into the now broken entrance. What transpired next was a melee of bedlam pandemonium.
Good God, I whispered.
It was the refrigerator that went first, a kamikaze of fists of fury, followed by poultry and leftovers ejected into the air. Mark, finding the strength of the old gods, perhaps Zeus himself, hoisted Alex above his head, slamming him through a glass coffee table. An act of violence to most, but to Alex? For some ungodly reason, it was liberating. No interior door was left inviolated. And Alex? Alex made sure of the rest. With the violence of action of none other than the Kool-Aid Man, he barreled through each and every door of the home. The rampage the three of them inflicted that night was not solely to this one home, Frank. Rather, to many.
Bob paused, staring into the dregs of his Bloody Mary, as if the secrets of the universe were floating in the tomato juice.
They moved down the block like a hurricane of bad decisions and cheap rum. They didn't just break in. They engaged in what Chris later cited in his legal defense as aggressive, non-consensual interior redecorating. They flipped sofas. They reversed the direction of ceiling fans. They took all the labels off the canned goods in 6 different pantries, creating a dinner roulette that would plague those families for months. It was anarchy, Frank. Pure, unadulterated anarchy.
He chuckled darkly. Bob suddenly stiffened. His eyes darted to the window of the rusty anchor, narrowing at a passing sedan that looked vaguely official.
But, speaking of statutes of limitations and the relentless march of the law, it suddenly occurs to me that the statute of limitations in this particular county is a lot more fluid than my attorney led me to believe. And that sedan outside smells like a subpoena. I must depart, Frank. The road rises to meet us, but sometimes it rises to hit us in the face. Keep your head on a swivel, pants on tight, and don't take any wooden flamingos from a lad named Little Timmy, unless you fancy such a thing.
He slid off the bar stool with a fluidity that defied his intoxication level, pulling his trench coat tight. He patted me firmly on the shoulder. And with a swirl of fabric and the scent of raw ether and Old Spice, Bob kicked the door open and vanished into the night, leaving me with a half-melted margarita, a baffled bartender, and a bar tab that, much like Bo Jackson and Tecmo Bowl, was running up a score that I had absolutely no hope of beating. Bob was a torrent of tales of a peculiar nature, and with much certainty I was sure our paths would cross again. One must ask, in the final analysis of history and property damage, who in fact were these friends, these amigos, these hombres? Perhaps they weren't mere vandals, rather pioneers of the unnecessary. They were the kind of high-powered anomalies who would look at a burning building and wonder if anyone brought marshmallows. They operated on a frequency that civilized society tried to medicate away. Taking saddle with reins tight, I reckon their legend will remain. Not because they built monuments, but because they left stains. Beautiful, indelible stains on the fabric of reality. They bought the ticket, they took the ride, and they didn't ask for a refund when the track fell apart. I turned back to the bar. The silence returned, heavy and thick. I looked at my half-melted margarita, then at the empty stool beside me. "Dorothy," I muttered, "better make that a double."